So this evening, we have the great pleasure of welcoming Dr. Laurence Brown, one of the BMC faculty, and the delightful Latifa, who's talking to us this evening from Kuwait. My name's Caroline. I'm an MCC coach. I've been coaching for about 10 years now. I'm a mentor coach, a registered ICF mentor coach, and also supervisor. But it's not about me this evening. It's very much about Dr. Laurence and Latifa and what we can all learn from the mentoring experience. So before we start, it would be absolutely wonderful if you could just pop your location in the chat, just so that we can connect in that way and find out where everybody is.
I'll put mine in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in Manchester in the UK. So we've got Dublin, Mary in Dublin, Ireland, Latifa in Qatar. Oh, are you in Qatar, Latifa? I thought it was Kuwait. Mark in British Columbia in Canada. Fontaine, I hope that's pronounced correctly, in Belgium. We've got Qatar and Worcester in the Malvern Hills. Wonderful. So we literally are very international this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, depending on where you are in the world. So just 2 minutes from me, Sharon, Johannesburg, just 2 minutes from me. This is the pattern we're going to follow. So Laurence and Latifa are going to do around 25 minutes, half an hour mentoring on the recording that you've all listened to. And then we're going to debrief and then open everything up for Q&A. Now, Laurence came up with the idea. If you have any questions as you're listening, as you're actively listening, because you're all coaches, then please pop those questions in the chat as we go along, and then we'll come back to them at the end. But we won't actually interrupt the mentoring as it's working, as we're seeing it live and in action this evening, Laurence and Latifa. So that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Dr. Laurence and Latifa.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Mark, you're in Canada, I think, aren't you? So it's morning over there. I started this coaching journey in about 2013 with Dr. Claire, and we've been hand in hand literally almost ever since. So now I'm coach mentoring, and I'm still on my journey to MCC, mainly because I've never actually coached full time. So I've always worked as a trainer or as a development trainer or as a university lecturer or as a dean. And it's always been in the back pocket, and I like to do it. I enjoy it and I use it in my work. When I'm training, I often put a little bit of coaching and coaching experience into the group. I have certain coaching questions I hand out, and we work like a focus group in pairs. And what I'm looking for is, are they able to give their client space? Are they able to go beyond the pregnant pause and dig a little deeper? And that's one of the things I find, that when I am using the competency markers, the ICF competency markers, nearly everybody, the first comment I make is, are you giving enough space? Because if you gave them 3, 4, 5 times as much space from the beginning of your coaching relationship, 70, 80% of the time, they will dig deeper. If you're not, then they're not used to doing that, and it becomes a Q&A. It becomes a conversation. And the best and the deepest way, as you know, to get the most out of the inner feeling of the client is just to give them more space, but they must expect it. So it's very difficult on a coaching journey, just because you're having a recording for PCC, for example, to suddenly start injecting space where it's not expected in the past. So that takes some working on, I think, with new clients. And my journey personally went from mentoring in universities at various levels to coaching, and I found it difficult not to mentor, not to give advice. So I had to train myself not to. And then about 18 months ago, I began training as a Samaritan, and that takes listening to the next level when you're on a suicide phone call line, pure listening. So you've got your 3 stages of listening, but Samaritan's training, which is some of the best in the world, honestly, and the most well put together from a multiple intelligences perspective, is about pure listening, which is something else, the next level again. So Latifa, hiya.
Yes. Good afternoon.
We
Good
never met
morning, good
before,
morning.
and I've never heard you coach before.
Yes.
So now we have met 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago. Thank you very much for the recording. And I listened to it with joy, I have to say. It was quite, I think I told you, I think it's quite uplifting, I said. It's a joyous occasion, your coaching. I quite enjoyed listening to it. And I have to congratulate you on the brevity of your questions, because that's a very powerful way of moving forward with coaching, is not to stack questions, but to just ask simple questions and just let them hang. And your client comes in quite regularly with quite deep thoughts. I mean, I'm assuming she's trained, she's a coach, and she's trained to be a coach, I would imagine, because she was very au fait with the process. And it was quite joyful to listen to. Thank you very much indeed for the recording. When you went through the recording and you listened to it later and decided to submit it, how did you feel that 36 minutes went, or that 38 minutes went? Latifa.
Yeah, you are asking me about the recording
Yeah,
session,
specifically,
right?
I'm talking to you now, yeah.
Ah.
I just a few opening questions. I just wondered how you felt about it.
I tried during my session to give much space to my client, to hear them somatically, and not to be in a rush to ask a question. So also one of the things is this clean language that we learn with B and C. So that's one of the things that I try always to apply, because sometimes when we give a very long question, so it will make it a bit hard for the client to think, even to understand what do you mean by the question, and then to answer. This will make them sometimes lose their focus and their connection with themselves. So, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I know also, having worked in the Middle East and Asia for 25, nearly 30 years, I also know how difficult it is to be descriptive in a second language, in English. And
Third language.
The way you and your client were interacting, well, yeah, I mean, I worked in the Emirates where English was a third language to many of my students. Most of them actually had Tagalog. What am I trying to say? Tagalog. Filipino as their first language, Arabic as a second language, and then the Tagalog was a primary language because they spent most of their time with their housemates as they were growing up. So actually English became a third language. And then they're trying to study City and Guilds degrees and master's degrees in accredited universities in English, which is quite remarkable. But I know that it can be culturally difficult to add space. It may be culturally difficult to talk about metaphor or visualizations. There are some complexities when flicking from Arabic to English. Do you have any thoughts about that? And has that been problematic for you?
Sometimes I feel it a bit challenging, but as a coach, I always keep in mind that trust the process. It's about my client. So I didn't need really to understand the whole story of my client, but it's for my client to understand their stories and to think about it deeply.
Yeah, trust the process. The reason I mentioned it is because many of the recordings I listen to, the coach will ask a question and then repeat it in a slightly different way. They'll reiterate the question and then maybe even again. And so you're stacking three questions together and the original meaning gets lost sometimes. It can be lost in translation sometimes, but you kept yours. I mean, some of your questions were 4 or 5 words and that was it. And then you stopped talking and you let it hang. And your client came back usually quite quickly with some very deeply considered responses, which was pleasurable to listen to. What do you think went really well in that recording, in that session?
I think building the alliance from the start with my client and the agreement and all of that. Also having this active listening This is a quality with me even before coaching. I listen so much to others. So that's a quality that I improve it with coaching. So I make it more efficient in a way that I ask powerful questions with coaching. So that's what I learned. Giving the space for my clients. And trying not to ask this very long question. That's intentional, by the way. And I try to dig deeper with my clients. So, but you know, you have all the ingredients, but sometimes you cannot put them all in one sauce.
See what I mean, Caroline? It's just the way that they make these allusions is brilliant. I love it. So do you like making sauces? I mean, is that what it's all about? This is a smorgasbord. No, that was a very considered answer, digging deeper. So what do you think was the main strength in that recording?
In that recording, listening, the short question, giving the space, that's, I'm going through the recording in my mind now. Digging deeper in the accountability of my client.
Yes, the accountability was really good because she had quite a big goal. I mean, she came in with a heavyweight goal for the session. It was more of a dilemma. And I think some coaches might have been leading because it was such a big problem for her and such a sudden problem. Why now? I kept wondering, why this important decision now, a life-changing decision, suddenly now? How long had it been going on? I think I'd like to have dug a bit deeper in that. So, but yeah, I think the fact that she came out with a couple of accountabilities, that was quite impressive. You could perhaps have taken that big goal and spread it over like 3 sessions, turned it into milestones as you walked along with her through to help her explore any other options that there might have been. You had a nice rapport and a nice humorful relationship. Can I ask you approximately how many sessions you've had with her since the original alliance?
Honest?
Yeah, go on, honest.
That's the first session with her.
No way.
Wallah. Believe me.
Wallah, seriously. I thought you'd known each other a few months.
No, I never ever worked with her coaching before. Really.
That's quite a surprise to me. I don't know anybody else. Did you all listen to? Put your thumbs up if you listen to the recording. Yeah, you see, so you did listen. Did you get the same impression that I did, that they were getting on so well together? Yes? Yeah, okay, there you go. Dana said yes. So we thought the same thing. So if you've got that rapport that quickly, imagine what you could do over time.
I will tell you something here. I keep something in mind. It's about harmony, about dancing with my client. So that's one of the techniques that I'm studying now in the supervision course. But, you know, I mix all these ingredients in my coaching session. So from the supervision and the coaching, I mix. That will give me the right sauce or the delicious sauce with my clients.
No, that makes that's a nice way of putting it, but I am honestly surprised about that because the rapport you had seemed to be so, well, it probably was very genuine. That's nice, very nice. The questioning, you didn't stack them, you kept them short. That was commendable. What do you think for your own coaching now, moving forward, before we really get into any detail? What do you think might be a challenge for your development?
Maybe looking from different perspectives.
Can you explain that?
Means asking more deep question, asking a question that sometimes they might surprise my client, that they will let them dig deeper. Like, for example, asking about the challenges, asking about what if this doesn't work, what is the backup plan, and because see, it's life is between positive and negative. It's not always about the strength. It's not always about the success. It's not always about the positive achievement. It's also about this failure that are lessons learned, and also they are lessons learned for us to grow. You got the point. So I think that's one of the points that I need to dig deeper within it.
Yeah. So
Maybe also when I listen to my recording again, I was thinking that I may go to a more specific goals from the start, instead of, I felt like she is keep on hesitating between two area.
yeah,
I may ask her to focus on one area only. You got the point. So I can bring it to other level, and I think it will have a more deeper insights.
yeah, deeper impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a very calm manner with you when you were talking to her, and you had a clear presence, which was great. And it was very client-centric, which I thought was very good. I like the way you kept to the agenda. You mentioned timings. You talked about expectations. You mirrored her language very effectively. Quite long. I don't know if you were taking notes, but you must have a photographic memory, because a lot of it was word perfect.
Sometimes, but not really wording by wording, because I also, it was a video and I was watching her and she's watching me. So I need to look on her faces, her movement, her changing of position, all this to capture if there is energy shift, what change in her energy, her faces, her expression. So I need to be present.
Yeah. So you started talking about where she is with this decision and where she was heading and her goals and the dilemma she was surrounding. How did you feel about getting to a clearer goal? Did you try to get to a clearer goal for the session?
I tried, but I think I need to dig deeper.
Sorry, I can't really.
I think that I was in the need to dig deeper on the goal, to make it more specific, to make it smart.
Yeah, you can't always. I mean, sometimes I meet people who don't have a goal, especially in the corporate world. People will come in who are not used to coaching and they don't even have a goal, and they don't really understand what that means. So it's like, okay, well, your takeaway for this session is come up with a goal for next session. And how might you do that? What area might you look at? Those are the accountabilities you take away. And if the goal is huge, okay, this week your accountability is, how do you feel about going away and breaking that goal down into stepping stones across a river? So you're going from the gray area toward the sun, and you can climb out of the river in the sun a little bit later from now.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
What about using metaphysical language like metaphors and visualizations in an Arabic culture? How does that work? Because I don't know.
For the coaching, I try always to be flowing with my client, to use my client language. So Maliha, I don't know if she is interested on metaphors or no. I may mention her metaphors, but it may be disconnected from the session. You got it. So I just was flowing with her. Sometimes what happened with some of my clients, from their language, I understand that they are talking much metaphorically. So I will use this metaphor and then I will reflect it back, and then I will ask a question, how this looks like, what insights comes here, what are supportive wind, what are the challenges, a lot of questions will come. But again, it depends on the language of my clients. It's not only about me. If it's for me, I'm very metaphoric. But this dance again.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, especially as it was the first session.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't realize that.
Absolutely.
I don't know, Caroline, were you surprised that was the first session?
I was. And I thought you did, much like Laurence, I thought you did absolutely brilliantly, Latifa. I would come back to Laurence's point about clarifying that goal. Whenever I deliver coach training, I do quite a lengthy sequence of activities on establishing the goal, because I think, you know, sometimes we're so keen that the client gets the most from the session that we want to move forward and really start diving deep. But actually what will best serve the client is really making sure that goal is crystal clear. And linking to that, you said, Latifa, around sort of, I think about 8 minutes in, you were talking about, you know, measures for success. And we know with the PCC markers that that's really important, that we not only establish a goal, but we also establish why or how we'll know we've been successful within the session. So, you know, in those terms, I thought you did really well. Coming back to Laurence's point about metaphorical language and also echoing his points about culture, it can be really tricky when you're coaching across cultures, because not everybody uses metaphorical language. Anecdotally, I was mentoring somebody for MCC over in Jakarta, and she said, we just don't use them, you know, it's not in our language, it's not what we do. I know the Arab world is slightly different. I know Arabic is, you know, thinking about your poets, for example, you're much more used to using metaphorical language. So if you have a client who isn't so keen on metaphors, try and use something very concrete that they see every day, like colours or the weather, and that's one way into it. But another thing I would just like to say, building on what Laurence has mentioned about metaphorical language, if having done, Laurence and I have both done the ICF PCC marker training, and the purpose, one thing that I took away from that was what we're trying to do is credit our coaches with things. We're not trying to penalize them for anything. So for example, if you ask a question around metaphors, you are credited with that. If a client chooses not to go down the metaphoric route, that's absolutely fine. You just go with them. So don't worry about it. You know, use it if you feel it's suitable. But obviously in terms of, you know, sort of PCC markers, don't worry, because you will be credited with the fact that you've tried to use them. Yes, something else, Latifa, I thought that you did really well was focused on both the what and the who. You know, we know, because we look at the PCC markers when we're mentoring for PCC, and it's good to reflect on those actually as we're mentoring up to MCC as well. So, and we know that they're the who and the what are measured multiple times in those markers, and I thought you did well with both. And what more could you have done with the who? Mm. So Latifa, I'm challenging you now, and I'm going to be quiet, to reflect on that question. What more could you have done with the who? And what might you have asked?
She keep on saying that what she is doing is for her family. And at that time I could ask her, what about you? I think this area, I could dig deeper there. I think she repeated this several times, because when I listen again to the recording, I noticed that.
Yeah.
But this area I didn't dig deeper. Yeah, I'm aware about that. Yes. Yeah,
and if we're going,
right.
You know, because I know you're already a PCC in very good standing, but if we're looking ahead then to MCC, what do we need to do? It's taking that even deep dive. Yeah. So who are you being right now? In what way does this, you know, match or go against your values? And a year from now, who do you want to be? And what values do you want to be resonating at that point? So that would be, you know, if we're talking about your further development, Latifa, that might be something that you could really think about. It was, you know, there is a danger with some clients, they want to get things done, so it can be a little transactional at times, but we have to also keep in mind, you know, what are we there for? We're there to try and challenge them, aren't we? That's one of our key competencies, to challenge our clients, and we seek that permission when we build our alliance. So keep that in mind, Latifa, and I would like to give you the power, the confidence, yeah, to really take that on, challenge even more. Back to you, Laurence.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. If anybody else wants to ask any questions, or you have an interest area for us to talk about later, just put it in the chat and we'll come back to it later. Shall we now just move through the recording? I sent you a script of your questions. I used to transcribe the whole thing, but that became very tedious as it took about 2 days for each one. So now I transcribe now the questions you ask, and we talk about those questions, but not necessarily what goes on in the middle, but how you're asking the questions. So first of all, thank you for allowing me to record this session. It's for learning purposes, and it will be given to my mentor. Is that okay with you? So you're checking in that you have the confidentiality, that's okay to do that. Then you said thank you, which was nice. So we've agreed on what coaching is and is not. Now I find out that this is their first session. So sorry. That's probably why I thought you'd have more sessions before. Where is the alliance? But I appreciate this is a recording, and it really needs to stay under 45 minutes. Having said that, I'll not be giving any advice during our session today. Also, our session is a safe place. So you've gone through all of this. It's confidential, it's non-judgmental. So our session will be 30 or 40 minutes. That's great because you're giving an indication of timing, which you went back to 10 minutes before the end, which is great. Do you have anything to add? There is only a couple of little things I might add. And one of them I tend to put in at the beginning of every coaching session is people are busy in their busy lives. And in each of our lives, every day, there's some kind of diversion to our mental processes. We want to go that way and we're forced to, just like on the roads around here. Are you fully present this session? Or is there anything you'd like to clear away? So you're asking them, can they focus? Can you be fully present this session? Or is there something else you'd like to clear away or talk about?
Laurence, for me to be fully focused, I just need to give you a time check. You've got about 4 minutes.
What? Go about what?
You've got about 4 minutes.
No way.
Yes.
Oh my God, I must shut up and get on with it. Right. Let's not go through this in this way. I was going to say, spend a little longer clarifying the goal and try and clarify it, but we've already covered that. We've already covered measures of success. Summarizing and checking in and understanding was really good. I mean, I've very rarely seen mirroring as well as that. At 4 minutes, you started to bring in values, and you used 2 words. You used what values resonate to you when you think about this decision, which was really good. And I actually noticed that on the PCC markers, you are ticking boxes with the word curious, with the word values, with the word beliefs. And as Caroline mentioned earlier, you are doing that. Whether they follow it up or not is up to them. Then measures of success, you asked the question, what makes this decision come specifically now? And I think for me, this is where you could have lifted it to a higher level if you'd spent a lot more time exploring the rationale for this decision right in the here and in the now. You talked about going into her feelings why she wanted to do it. But I wondered about any parallel processes that were going on. Is there something else going on in her life where suddenly this becomes something she needs to do, whether or not she's financially ready, whether or not her family need it, the boys are at school or college. And I'm just wondering why now? And is there another reason that she's in a rush to make this resignation decision now? She's got this dilemma. And I'm wondering if it's because there might be something else going on in her life, but she may not even equate to this. But is it something that's pushing an agenda from the back? We could have explored that a bit deeper. You mentioned here time a lot, time. I don't know how long, she said. Time is very definitely worrying this client. Spending every second, she said, very precious, she said. I would have dug a lot deeper on that. I would have asked her and challenged her and used my gut instinct to say, can we explore this? What do you actually mean about having a clear vision, about not knowing how long? What else is going on for you here? I would have dug deeper. How does this affect your belief system? Has your beliefs changed moving forward now that you say you're this age with 3 years to go? I've got loads of notes here. Let's move on a bit more. Somatics. What's coming up for you when you hear this? This was about 25 minutes. Feelings. Can you anchor that energy? You mentioned her energy and smiling, and there was a lot of humor. Can you hold on to that? and ask her to hang on to that positive energy shifts. Then she talked about a foggy cloud. That's a lovely metaphor for me to explore. What is this foggy cloud she talks about? I would have spent a bit of time digging into that maybe. There was one point where you said, you mentioned some action steps that we'll start with as we finish our session. So will you tell me them again? That's a bit teacherish. That's a bit, is that equal partnering? What specific steps will you take after our session? You could have rephrased it. So instead of using the word tell me, you could have said, what specific steps will you talk about after our session? Yeah, instead of report to me what you're thinking, saying, what steps will you take after our session? And thinking about milestones moving forward. So what's your next milestone? What's your next part of this decision? And then you're moving it forward with this accountability. You talk then about the wider picture and the longer term. I think that's really good. Whole systems and bigger goals. You use the word support you on your journey. If you used the word journey with me, I'd have stuck her in a train and given her a visual metaphor of traveling on this journey on a train or in a bus. And I'd have maybe asked her to look out of the window right now, up at the sky, and tell me what the sky looks like. What color is it? Using color psychology to try and gauge their mood at the time and their energy levels. You talked about resources. Who can support you on this journey? You talked about imagine people coming to your house and some of them coming one day to tell you something. What would they say? What a wonderful question that was. What a wonderful visualization that was. Her opening the door and finding old friends and colleagues and anchoring that feeling, that deeper motivation would have been really good. So a bit more of the somatics, I think. Time management. It was very client-centered. You were a very efficient partner and you honored the session when you closed. So you closed in a very efficient way and gathered the learnings that had been taken place. And you really honored the session with the way you ended it. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing all of this and your honesty and for your courage. Most appreciated. Thank you so much.
Well done, Latifa. Woo. So Latifa, may I ask you to just take a few moments to reflect?
Yeah, sure.
And consider, because there was a lot of information shared there by Laurence. What would you say were the one or two main pieces of learning for you that you can take forward in a practical way to use in your next session?
Digging deeper in making the goal more specific. And what I capture now is being more present to capture this moment of these metaphors, but I can also dig deeper. Maybe I didn't really pay that attention, but it's even a metaphor. The question, sometimes instead of telling me, just say them, or, changing the way how we ask sometimes. This also, it may impact.
Yeah, certainly if we move towards MCC, it would be a red flag warning if we saw the phrase tell me. Even if we have, a language barrier, that would be quite directive, and that's not something that we do, PCC, MCC coaches. It's maybe something we might see a little bit more with somebody who's starting out with their ACC. So, but sometimes it's a language thing, Latifa, when we translate, and I totally empathize with that. And it's just something that it's good to be aware of, so that when you're considering how to phrase it in English, which is remarkable, by the way, your use of language is absolutely amazing. I'm really, wow, I could never do that in Arabic for sure. Great. So you've got 3 practical strategies to take forward, 3 pieces of learning to help inform even better practice on your part. That's wonderful. May I offer you a little bit of a challenge, Latifa? Because when I mentor, I always like to offer a bit of a challenge. Are you willing to accept?
Most welcome.
PCC, MCC. So, I always kind of do that because we're kind of looking up there, aren't we? self as instrument. So when you're hearing these things from this client, what's your gut instinct telling you? What's your intuition making you think about or suggesting? And considering how to utilize that for the benefit of the client. We're not making assumptions. We're harnessing what we have in this, broader awareness that we're gaining through this active listening and looking at everything that's going on with the client and the language that they're using. And we're harnessing that and offering it to the client, followed by a question. So I might phrase it something like, my gut instinct is telling me X, Y, and Z. What are your thoughts on that? And you know what? Also, as an MCC, PCC, being comfortable in the space of not knowing, I could get it completely wrong. I'm okay with that, because that's learning for me as a coach about my client, but it also allows them to learn because they're explaining, processing what's been said. So harnessing that power within yourself to offer it to your client and follow it with a question. So that would be the big challenge there, Latifa, for you, because I know that your practice is very good. So it's about, making it even better for you and the clients. What are your thoughts on that, Latifa?
I own all these commands that you are giving to me. Then keep under process, my next session, all this, I will put it in practice, and let's see what this will give us the result.
Brilliant. And I'm sure Laurence and I would be keen to hear what the results are. Absolutely.
I'm very practical. Get the insights, put in practice, and let's see what is the result.
Latifa, you and I have that in common then. Absolutely. Laurence, is there anything you'd like to say to kind of sum up or anything before we move on to the Q&A? Can't hear Laurence suddenly. Laurence, we can't hear you suddenly.
No, I switched off my microphone while you were talking. Sorry.
Okay. No,
I think that was wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. And I appreciate your input as well, very much. And I'd appreciate the input of the others. I did think of self as instrument, and my gut instinct was telling me there was more going on here with this decision than she was telling herself. There was parallel processes going on here, and I would follow that up. And maybe there would have been a eureka moment. Maybe there would be a light bulb moment with that. Maybe she doesn't even realize. I mean, I was told something a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, overnight, that could have changed my life overnight. And it could affect the way I think about anything in the future. I haven't told anybody what it is, but, it's something that I was thinking maybe she was told something like that. And now she thinks she's got very little time left. So she kept going back to time being precious and spending precious seconds with her family, doing something she was precious about, not just engineering after 35 years. So I really would have liked to and been interested to see if I could have uncovered something else, that light bulb moment. I have already sent you feedback on the session using the markers. Just for a moment, let's go through the 8 of them. Demonstrate ethical practice. Yes. What can I hear in one session? What I would hear over 3 or 4 sessions of recordings is much more of these tick boxes, much more of this being done. So definitely ethical practice, but I'm only assuming, and I know you do, continual professional development and stuff. Embodies a coaching mindset. Yeah, I mean, I definitely saw 5 out of 8 of those, even in this short one here. You have those, I've underlined them for you. I couldn't underline the others because I don't know. Mentally and emotionally prepares for sessions. Well, yeah, obviously you do, but I didn't feel or see it. But it's something you would do as a natural. Seeks help from outside sources when necessary. There are so many things on the markers we cannot tick in a one-off recording. Establishes and maintains the agreement. Partners beautifully all the way through, yeah? All of them. Cultivates trust and safety. Everything's ticked. All 6 of them are ticked. Maintains presence, is fully conscious and present with the client, employing a style that's open, flexible, grounded, and confident. Yeah. Demonstrates confidence in working with strong client emotions during the process. I didn't hear that. but in another session, I may well have done. I had one session I was coaching some months back where the coach waited for the client to stop crying for 2 minutes. Didn't say a word. Just sat there with empathy, let the lady cry it out until the lady said, okay, I'm sorry, I'm ready to go again. And for me, that was a learning moment. 2 minutes is a long time, and not aiding, helping, butting in, pure listening, pure empathy, staying there, not trying to pick them up, staying there in the pit with them in the dark for a moment. Yeah. Communicating effectively, I did everything. Evokes awareness, everything. There was just 2 I didn't notice. And I think in one session you wouldn't normally. And then in the last 8, facilitates client growth. Yeah. Pretty much all of them I ticked. And I don't remember another time I've done this, ticking all these boxes on a 38-minute coaching session, especially with somebody you've never met before.
Very, very well done, Latifa. So Latifa, you can have a few moments breath. We'll come back to you once you've had a little bit of space so that you can give us your take on the mentoring and what that process was like with you. But I'd love to now open up the floor. Would anybody like to do one of 2 things? Say anything to Latifa about her coaching, or ask Laurence or I questions about the mentoring itself.
Actually, what I will say is you have got the feedback form. So look at the things I couldn't tick, Latifa. Look at the things that weren't in bold and rewatch this recording. Then you can get everything, yeah? Okay.
Come on, ladies and gents. There must be some questions. There's always questions. Mary.
I will say that it was a pleasure to listen to the coaching session. It always fascinates me listening to other coaches and how we're all so different. And just to see the high standards, really, really good. It's I was kind of stuck on the thing with the lady. What the hell is a rush? And what's the story here? How realistic is this? She can't just run off and be a coach and jack her job. Has she money? And then I'm like, hold on, stop it. Digging deeper, I think there was something else there with that woman, in my opinion, that needed to be unearthed. I got the impression she is so excited by coaching. She wants to go to schools. She wants to write a book. And she feels like she's too old and she's running out of time. Because I had a bit of that because I've only started off. I'm quite old. Do you know what I mean?
You're not old, Mary.
I'm quite comfortable being the age that I am. I've earned it, So, yeah, I think there was something else that needed to, I would have gone down, I think, holes. It's very easy to say that because I'm this age, I can relate to it. Like, you're only very young, but I think you did a splendid job. I think you were excellent. Well done.
Oh, that's lovely feedback. Thank you, Mary. And Laurence and I both had that same feeling. Like, what else is going on here? What's the rush? What's making her, so kind of frantic to make these big decisions so quickly? And yeah, so what else was going on under the surface? Yeah.
But there was also a bit of her feeling guilt about wanting to do what she wanted to do herself. So she was...
For herself.
She needed to clarify her own. Yeah. It's really good, though. Very interesting.
Yeah. And Latifa, this is the first session you've done with us. So, there's so much scope now to see what else transpires and develops through your conversations, isn't there? So that's brilliant. Thank you for your input, Mary. Anybody else? Any questions? If you don't want to appear on screen because you're in your pajamas, depending on whether it's very early morning or very late at night where you are, please pop your questions in the chat. But we'd love to hear from you if we can.
Latifa, if you have any questions for Caroline or I after this, after you've re-listened to the session, just fire them at us.
I keep on processing the feedbacks that I got. A lot of learning, really, and I'm grateful for that. And I will rewatch the recording. There will be a lot of learning and lessons learned from this one recording. Digging deeper, this keep on popping up.
Give him more space, Latifa. Give him more space. Let the question hang. Even if they come back, let it hang. Don't respond. Count to 10. Get into the habit. And it's amazing how many times they'll interrupt your counting and just keep going.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Mark has popped a message in the chat. He said, this has been very insightful and appreciate the questions and insights in how you both, Laurence and Caroline, offered feed forward. And Latifa, your vulnerability to explore this with an audience is special and why we all grow in this space. I have a client meeting and must go, but thank you for the learning.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And I agree. I'd like to back that up. You've been very vulnerable and very brave. Thank you, Latifa.
Very much so. Okay, who else? Come on, there must be more questions. Or any observations about the mentoring? Was it very similar to mentoring you've had? Was it very different? Did you learn anything? I'm a coach. I shouldn't stack questions.
You're offering options.
Options. Yeah. We have a very quiet audience this evening, Laurence, don't we? It's very, very unusual. Is it me?
I think they've all disappeared, gone off for breakfast. They're all on mute, not on camera.
Mary. Did you want to share something, Mary?
No, do you know what I was going to? And then I was just thinking, hang on, I'm just talking because no, I'm just going to feel like I have to fill that space. But then I decided, no, I actually don't have to do that. It's a little bit like I have this sticker. And I don't know if you can read it, right?
Pause.
Yeah. And that's what I stick there when I'm coaching. Take the pause, you know.
And be with
I actually do have a little question.
Go on.
It's not about this particular coaching session, but it's just about the markers. I'm just going to do my ACC, right? And I was kind of led to believe that you do your coaching session and it's assumed that you have looked after all the agreements and legal side. So you don't have to say that in the session. Is that correct?
Yes and no.
My advice would be
allude to it.
To say something.
Yes, because I
Okay.
think in terms of confidentiality as well, and something that I often say is, if you, at the end of the session, if you know it's being recorded, are you going to be as open? So I often say, look, we'll record it and thank you very much for agreeing to, and it's, approximately 40 minutes or whatever that might be. And, we've already done our alliance and confidentiality, etc. If at the end of the session you feel, actually, I don't want that out there, please just say and it will be deleted.
So the client, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, funny enough, I coached a lady yesterday and she said to me, because I started the session with, even though I'd the written agreement, I said, and I so appreciate you allowing me to record this for ICF. And she said, oh, no bother. And then she said, could you send a copy of it to me too? I said, yeah, pleasure. She said, because I'd like to learn, blah, blah, blah. And I thought that was interesting,
Yeah, and actually, when I deliver mentor coaching, sometimes clients will say to me, can you record this? Because Latifa obviously will have this to go back to because it's helpful, because I won't take it all in at once. So if a client asks you that, why not?
Or even offer it to them, because there's
absolutely, yeah. And remember, we don't have to have the faces. We can just have the audio if people feel a bit more comfortable with that.
I only found that out a couple of weeks ago, because actually the faces, it can be quite intimidating when you're coaching. You're like, Jesus, is my hair sticking up? Do I look okay? The vanity and all that. But yeah, it's an interesting one, the recording. A lot of people don't like it.
Mm.
So
And also, you know, there are, if you're doing not just corporate coaching, but if you are coaching in the, you know, the corporate world, there are those confidentiality issues as well. So sometimes it can't be recorded. And you know, that's that. You have to find a different client. And when
Yeah.
you are choosing, you know, who to record for these, you know, jumping through the ICF hoops and getting those credentials, we also have to consider what a good client will look like in terms of, I don't mean physically, of course, but what a good client will look like in terms of allowing us to be ourselves and that they are coachable. For example, if you have a very, very narrative client, that might not be the best idea for recording. I would definitely say try to avoid anybody who is coaching or knows too much about coaching, because then I think that doesn't always allow you to showcase your skills. So yeah, there's those things to consider also when you're preparing that recording. Giles has just said, thank you, Laurence, Caroline, and a big thank you to Latifa. He's got the head off. Any other questions, Mary, about the sort of markers or the process for applications?
Not really. I've just done all my mentor sessions, and the last mentor, I had 3 sessions with her, and she was really good. The first one, she didn't record, and I asked her, I said, we should have recorded this. I'm never going to remember all that. Like, so the next 2 we did, which was so helpful. And the way she did it was, I had to mark myself. I'd say, well, how did you think you did? What you did well, what you didn't do well. And then she looked at the video, read my notes, and then she gave me back her notes, and we had an hour session. So it was really, she was a kick-ass coach, which is what I wanted, right? Because I had been doing a bit of coaching with a voluntary organization, but there was a bit of mentoring in it. And I was so terrified I was developing bad habits, which I think I was, you know. And I thought, how am I going to get out of this? And that's that pause. Just shut up, just listen, just wait.
Yeah,
You know, take the
absolutely.
pause. So, yeah.
Actually, that's interesting you talk about the mentoring there, because I've always had a problem with trying to give advice, because that was my job originally.
Yeah.
So to get away from the ICF restrictions, I joined the EMCC.
But it's good discipline, you know.
Yeah.
It's I have to say now, after I got really busy for a while with the volunteering, and I thought, I can't even put in for ICF now. I'm going to have to detox from this. And
the good thing about ICF is the clean coaching.
I love it. I do love
clean, and it's very clear what your role is and what the parameters are. And so in terms of, you know, learning your trade, so to speak, everything is really clear.
It's a very good discipline. It really is.
Yeah. And you know, in terms of the process, it allows you to develop gradually, because obviously your mentoring has to be over 3 months. So during that 3 months, ideally, you're doing, you know, lots and lots of sessions, and you're putting into practice what you hear from your mentor in the group sessions and in the one-to-one sessions. Yeah,
no, it's great. But practice.
If you find seeing yourself and your hair sticking up is off-putting, just go and hit hide self-view and you disappear.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, actually, while I'm coaching somebody, I really like to be able to see them, because I want to see their reactions and stuff like that. The voice can tell a lot as well. But on my computer, you can just send the audio. So you don't have to send them.
Yeah, you can send the video or the audio.
Yeah, so it's good.
Yeah.
But I just hate being on camera. It's the whole thing of recording, and anyway, we get there. But this has been wonderful, and I'd like to thank you all for the effort, and particularly the coach. You're brilliant. You should be very proud of yourself.
Donna said, sorry, I've missed one here. Dana said, extremely valuable mentoring session for me. Big thank you and congratulations, Latifa, for the session and for the courage. And we've got, thank you, Latifa, for allowing us to learn from your session. Thank you, Caroline and Laurence, for sharing your insights on how to facilitate the deep diving and thought-provoking questions. So very pleased that that has been beneficial for everybody. Dr. Claire has asked me, our founder, Dr. Claire has asked me to just share a couple of things that are happening so that everybody knows what's going on and what opportunities are available. Obviously, that's this evening. There are other recordings. Samira, who is an MCC coach, recorded but in both English and Arabic, a peep through the window. Mine was a few weeks ago, so that's also available free of charge. Just need to make contact to get the recording of the coaching session and then the recording of the mentoring session to watch. And then this one will be available too. In addition, we also offer group and one-to-one mentor coaching, not just for credentialing purposes, but also for professional development. And it's a great learning space because it allows you to listen to other people coaching, which I think is in itself really, really valuable because coaching can be quite isolating. We also, for those of you that are PCC and MCC coaches, offer a certification in mentor coaching so that you can learn the skills to be a mentor coach yourself. And that's delivered in both English and Arabic. Oh, look at that photo, horrendous. If you would like to watch a live, unscripted, freestyled MCC coaching session with one of my existing clients, that's just a live session. So you can register and dial in to watch me coach. We also have Britta, who is German-Austrian, but living in Africa, working with NGOs. She's looking at cross-cultural coaching, which is a really interesting topic. All of these Coach Me cafes, of course, are free of charge. We currently are working with groups in English and Arabic on the supervision qualifications to become a supervisor, again for PCC and MCC coaches. We offer the certificate and we also offer the longer diploma program, and it's triple accredited. So it means that you'll be able to choose which professional body you want to follow up your credentialing with in terms of supervision. We also offer supervision groups. So as well as mentor coaching groups to practice, you can also be involved in our supervision groups. If you'd like to see our founder, Dr. Claire, she's going to do the Gestalt, I hope I pronounced that correctly, empty chair workshop, and that will be on the 29th of March. All of these are in chronological order, by the way, so that will be a good opportunity to see Dr. Claire, also an MCC coach. And we have, if you're interested in developing knowledge about psychometrics and psychometric testing and 360s in organizations, then you can see Arne speak about that in April. In May, we have Danny coming along, and Danny's going to be talking to us about existentialism. Goodness me, it's very highbrow, but really very interesting work if you're trying to develop different aspects to your coaching. And finally, we have Ubuntu coming to talk about humanness. So that will be another really interesting Coach Me Cafe if you can make it, and that one is in June. If you look at our website, you'll see all of the Coach Me Cafes are listed under our team biographical information, so you can register for any of those for free professional development opportunities, and also a way to meet other coaches around the world. Right, that was what I was asked to do, so I have completed it and we're right on time. So if you need to contact Dr. Laurence or myself, if you have any questions following this Coach Me Cafe mentoring peek through the window session, please do get in touch. It's always nice to hear from people, and we hope to see you at our next session soon. Take care.
Brilliant.
Thank you
so much.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.